to begin with recitation from the Holy Quran.
الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
We are honored today to have as an eminent speaker the former IG Police, Dr. Syed Kaleem Imam, who has served for 33 plus years. He was generally known as the philosopher cop, retired with honors on 25th April 2022. He is an exemplary former civil servant of the police force, having served as Federal Secretary of the Ministry of Narcotics Control. He has held challenging positions both nationally and internationally. He holds a PhD in politics and international relations. He has served principally as IG Islamabad, where he succeeded in securing the capital in the aftermath of the SWAT operations and combated terrorism. As IG Punjab, he is renowned for conducting fair and transparent elections without any casualties during the voting process. During his time as IG Sindh, he was praised for his belief in rule of law, where he reformed and restructured working processes, reduced street crime, and did much to improve law and order conditions in rural Sindh. With the UN, he has held various positions, including Chief of Operations in Mozambique, Planning Coordinator in Liberia, Deputy Commissioner, and later being appointed first ever Pakistan UN Police Commissioner in Darfur, Sudan. He has been decorated with 3 UN Peace Medals, the Quaid-e-Azam Police Medal, the President's Police Medal, and the Tamgha Imtiaz for National Distinguished Service. He is bracketed as an academician, researcher, security analyst, and an internationally acclaimed police officer. Today, he will share his thoughts with us on terrorism and state response. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I'm here for this topic, and I have served for more than 33 years in the police service of Pakistan as well as internationally. I'll just try to share some of my thoughts. And Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to all the distinguished guests. And Nadeem sir, Excellency, thank you very much. Nadeem Saab, Koka Saab, Ambassador Jamal Saab, many of the people sitting over here and sir are actually my mentors. And I'm his disciples in a way, you know. So whatever I say today, good or bad, they will get a credit for that. So I'm gratitude to the Institute of Regional Studies for inviting me to talk to the profound dignitaries from the wide range of discipline. And it's always good to be away from routine. It gives a chance to introspect and reviews one life and career and working. But we should be grateful, humble, and ready to serve. And I think that is a basic trait and attribute which actually takes us far away from others. I did my master's in philosophy. And when I was studying as a student in Karachi University way back in mid-80s, so people used to laugh at me and they used to make fun of me for studying philosophy. And later on, when I started teaching philosophy, they were making more fun of me. Here is a man teaching philosophy. But philosophy is a combination of 2 Greek words. Philos means to love and Sophias means wisdom. So philosophy is all about wisdom, loving it, trying to find out reality, nature, existence. Who are we? Why are we here? How long we will be here? How many have come before us? What is our tenure in this universe? We all look for 33 or 34 years of service. but an average age of Pakistani is around 65 to 70. So I'm 60 years old now. So I have about 7 or 8 more years of productive life. That's all. And I can be going anytime, you know. And Heidegger says man is old enough to die the moment he is born. The question is how well you spend this time, how well you do during this time that you are here. It was love for wisdom, but I was jeered for it in school, in university, and among the colleagues, and as I joined civil services. I shall talk, and my discussion will revolve around my understanding and some of the research that I've carried on. I'll try to blend that with some experience and my learning. I have been a policy maker, have been forming a lot of strategies, and I'm a practitioner. I was right on the street running after the criminals and the bad guys. And then also I was there planning and reforming and is involved in a lot of other such activities which brought a lot of transformation in the police service of Pakistan. This is what the reality is all over the world. And so it's true is for our society. We have a lot of critiques, a lot of people talk about, but we'll find very few people who actually want to understand and bring a difference. अमली काम करने वाले बहुत कम हैं. And we love to criticize. I'm telling him the fish stinks. That is one way of being sarcastic. But a positive criticism would be, let's ask him to be more careful next time he buys a fish. This is how we can see life. Let's talk, as I run through and try to understand extremism and terrorism, we'll talk about life and human psyche and crime and terrorism. You'll also see the challenges and how the state has been responding and make some prognosis and take some questions at the end. But remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. When we talk about life, we have an appraisal of what it is all about. We are Homo sapiens. We have inner fear of existing, of competing DNAs. Strong instinct for survival. Self-preservation, we create as well as we destroy. We are known as a social animal. We live in a community and society. And we are also taken to be as a rational human beings. But actually, we are existentialist. We are biased and prejudiced. We love our land, language, food, ideology, and family, and ready to do anything for that. And this journey spreads around 15,000 years. We don't know what mankind has been doing before that. From myths and mythologies to the domains of religion, pragmatism, science, and technology. But self-perpetuation has been the hallmark of its life, striving for existence and prosperity. Remember, it is not most the strongest and the most intelligent that survive, but one most responsive to change that survives and prosper. And as I quote from Plato, all human behavior flows from three main sources: a desire, ख्वाहिश, ये भी मिल जाए, हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी, emotions attached to our behavior, and of course, knowledge that we attain. And this can be manipulated for expediency or gains, or it can be inspired to do better in life or make a positive contribution. Let's not put others down, let's all rise together. All the organizations need to work together to rise, actually. As we move towards terrorism and the organized crime, let's see why people commit crime. These are some of the reasons that we have come through the research. When someone commits crime, he does it for need. Nowadays, because of the inflation, a lot of crime is rising. And we are seeing good people doing crime for need. Greed, let's have some more. Let's have some more. Imitation, seeing what other peoples are doing. We love to see it. People learn through these lectures like one I'm giving over here, but actually humans learn through imitations. Nakal se seekhta hai. We see what others are doing and we start doing it. बच्चा सबसे पहले अपने वालिदैन की जो भी वो कर रहे होते हैं वो करता है. Community apathy, tend to accept what is wrong, not being able to differentiate between good and bad. The nature we have, the genes that we have, and the way we have been nurtured throughout our life. And of course, there can be psychological reasons. You could be bullied, you could be abused, you could be triggered, something there. You could have childhood wounds. And of course, the inadequate response of the criminal justice system. If that is not responding, the crime will continue to exist and perpetuate. Remember, the brain rules over bronze. Strength springs from the human brain. Worldly, but it should be worldly and future-oriented, and it can be nurtured that way. The emphasis should be on problem-solving skills. Systematic and scientific thinking is a way forward. Weapons and gun can give you an edge, but secret of state strength is not hidden in its weaponry. The best weapons are system of organized thoughts. And this is what we do then. We either fight, we can take a flight, and at times we also freeze. I'm a tennis player. I often see some of the best players getting freeze. I have seen Djokovic getting freeze, one of the best players who has won so many Grand Slams, but there can be time when you're not at your best. Just talking about Kohli, one of the great cricketers, and something has bad wrong. I don't know his nuptiality or what, but something is going about around him. Law seems to be for children of lesser God. This is often said. The order of the day is show me the man and I'll show you the rules. The application of law. Actually, right is might and not might is right. And we need to live into this paradigm. And an unexamined life is not worth living. I build a case to explain the human psyche. And that is where I can move towards why people become extremists and why people tend to move towards terrorism and this organized crime. The internal security of Pakistan revolves or have instability and challenges around the Kashmir issue, around the Durand line, and many others issues. But the principal responsibility of the internal security lies with the police, the premier law enforcement agency. It is followed by civil armed forces who come to help, and military is always there to support, to ensure law and order. This is a paradigm which is followed all over the world. When we talk about internal security, we are going to talk about traditional and non-traditional security. This is how we can divide the concept of security. The traditional security is against the threats affecting the essential values of the state, its territory, territorial integrity, its people, its tradition, its religion and political sovereignty. But remember, police principally responsible for the internal security of. And the non-traditional security revolves around survival and well-being of people against non-forces resources like climate change, resource scarcity, infectious disease, natural disasters, exponential population growth, human smuggling, food shortages, unplanned migration. The root causes of instability. Why are we here? Why we keep on making keep taking so many measures, establishing departments, getting new equipments? What are the reasons for instability? For me, 5, and I always tend to present this. 3 external and 2 would be internal, which actually are the root causes of the instability, and we continue to live with it. First, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, the issues of refugees. The byproduct was Afghan Mujahideen, regional and international players. We see Taliban coming as allies and force. It has breeded militancy, arms, and narcotics. The second root cause is US-NATO invasion after 9/11. Attack of USA and NATO forces brought up non-state actors and various militant groups into actions. There were a lot of casualties in law enforcement agencies and among the civilians. The third is the latest, the US-NATO withdrawal in Afghanistan on 30/7/2021. Taliban forces took over Afghanistan and formed Islamic Emirate. We see some new leadership coming over there. International community yet to recognize the new government, but we see a lot of their small officers being working over there still, despite recognition. Third, the criminal mafia and the militancy, the patronage of crime, not accepting bad as a bad, evil as an evil, crime as a crime. And as they say, crime was politicized and politics was criminalized. The perpetuation of the colonial mindsets, not taking the locals to be your own people, treating them as a stranger. Lastly, the governance and rule of law issue. The nationalist element surged because of governance and bad rule of law, sectarian strife. We often see law and order situation, insurgency, catalyzed by many hostile agencies. The state pillars relationship becomes another root cause, the relationship between the executive, legislation, and judiciary, and now the press. Terrorism, generally defined as unlawful use of violence and intimidation against civilian law enforcement agencies or assets for political aims or ideological objectives. But it stems from extremism. No society is free from terrorism. It's complex and highly pervasive. It's a global problem. In fact, it's a threat to the global community. The paradox is many of them treat them as a freedom fighters and others as terrorists. The factors, the pull factors, why does a person get cornered and why does he form an extreme opinion and why is he ready to die for it? Some of the pull factors are the monetary benefits or the service against the membership. The others are the promise of adventure, the promise of freedom, the promise of spiritual comforts. That's where when you open the door, pull yourself in. Inadequate due process law enforcement also becomes a factor that you want to move in. The push factors, where you are pushed, again placed in that positions, is marginalization, inequality, discriminations, persecutions, low literacy, denial of civil rights, the environment existing, the ambience existing, the historical context, the socio-economic grievances, expediency, when you look for and opt for expediency or short-term gains, adopt extrajudicial measures, you forces people to go to that side. The contextual factors involve the fragile policies without equity and inclusiveness, the lack of rule of law, selected application of law, corruption, criminality, and the cultural trends. Rule of the ruler, rather rule of the law. That becomes a challenge, these contextual factors. The other reasons, the terrorism, can be psychological, ideological, and maybe strategic. And who engage in terrorism may do so for purely personal reasons, based on their own psychological state of mind. ये भी हो सकता है. Motivation क्या होता है? Nothing more than hate or desire for power, and sometimes perpetual gains. Even government and non-state groups use the term to abuse and denounce the opposing groups. Dahshatgard, you are Dahshatgard. Various organizations using terrorism to achieve their objectives. These are some of the political extremist and the religious extremist groups which are existing, which tend to take advantage and move towards that direction. As a result of which, if we go through the figures, we would see that since 1989, where it started, the sectarian incidents, it moves up and then it goes down, and we see the height in 2006, 7, and 8 with 341 incidents. Until May 2022, so far we have 3 incidents. It ain't stopping. And as a result of those incidents, these are the figures of casualties. Again, we see from 1989 onwards, the surge going up. And then we see 558 incidents in a single year in 2014 and 13. So this year so far, 117 casualties have taken place. In the context of Balochistan, supported by the hostile and neighboring countries, and the people over there believe that the Balochistan resources need to be spent more adequately. Lack of socio-economic development pushes them on the side. This alienation can be reversed with empathy and a surety to the local governments and people that we are there for you. The population divided in 5 provinces and subdivisions with different cultures, language, and traditions, several sect and ethnic groups, leads to class conflicts and ultimately to the violence. The 4th generation warfare employed terrorism as a mean to achieve its objective. The 5th generation warfare, using of internet and social media by terrorists, developing parallel processes hardware. Why nations go to war? Why in a society people tend to go towards conflict? When right does not clash with wrong, but with another right, each assuming that it's their right and they are on the rightful course. The war tactics have changed. It took mankind 300 years to move from firepower to the machine power, but it took him just 15 years to move from machine power to the information power. War goes on 24/7. Weapons of mass destruction have moved towards mass weapons of deception and disruption now. These are some of the latest groups who are active around in the vicinity, in the bordering regions and around, who tend to create those terrible incidents and tend to project and are trying to enforce their ideologies and their modes and their way of living and life. And we see a new government in Afghanistan just a year ago. These are some other groups we see who are pretty active over there. With after the death of Mangal Bagh, we see Zala Khan heading the Lashkar-e-Islam. What does it do when this group get involved in these activities? Reduction in investment, impact on foreign direct investment, loss of exports, extremism and militancy goes on, poverty and unemployment comes in. We have lost more than 70,000 lives in the process. Tourism and foreign investment dried up. And we are still hosting 3 million Afghan refugees, and it's a challenge. More than 7,500 police officers have been martyred. And these include officers from the rank of Inspector Generals to the other ranks of police, and which included female police officers. As such, 10th in the list of countries worst hit by terrorism. We did got some aid, but loss to Pakistan economy was more, 150 billion. This is where we stand. The measures, the policy, the strategy that we make, this is where we stand. And we need to improve it. And we need to take measures. We see the Corruption Perception Index, 126 in 1920. Freedom of Press, 145 in 2020. Global Opportunity, 116 in 2020. Global Hunger Index, 88 in 2020. Constant decline for the past 3 years. Serial number 8 in the rule of law. These are our challenges. Current inflation rate is 14, but the opposition is saying it's 28. That might spike to 30 and 48. And this is what people are expecting. So how did the state respond? What did we do? What happened? The job was maintenance of law and order, prevention and detection of crime, provision of security, prosecution of criminals, countering terrorism and organized crime. This was their mandate. They came up with strategies. They looked around the global counter-terrorism models. No country puts on paper the exact counter-terrorism model that they are following. But CT model successful is actually intelligence-led operations. And what intelligence can do, police can't do. You need those technology actually to find out what's happening. And what police can do, the intelligence agencies can't do. What is required is joint effort with fusion cells, close cooperation for calculated and targeted counterterrorism efforts. With guns, you can kill terrorists. With education, you can kill terrorism. So with awareness, education, literacy, and addressing those reasons why people commit crime and why people have those pull and push factors, we can actually eliminate or reduce or somehow bring it down, the non-kinetic measures. However, the first systematic response came through the formation of National Action Plan and a National Internal Security Policy. And now we also have a National Security Policy, which is a hope, and I hope it is implemented. I hope there's a capacity building, enough resources are given, and the stakeholders are actually trained to understand what it is and how to implement it. The National Internal Security Policy took some interim measures. They also took some kinetic actions and also some non-kinetic doing steps in that way. The National Internal Security Policy from 2014 to 2018 was based on hard actions and soft actions, the composite deterrence plan and the comprehensive response plan. State intervention came through how far they will go for the kinetic action and the non-kinetic action. The comprehensive response plan, the soft part, formation of national narrative, approach that strives for participative political process, strategize extremism through dialogue, rehab temporary displaced persons, socioeconomic developments, engage youth in healthy activities. Integrate madrasas and mainstream education system. As far as composite deterrence plan was concerned, capacity building of law enforcement agencies, development and integrate national database, regulate advanced refugees, formation of Directorate of Internal Security. This was a hardcore action. Modernization of law enforcement agencies, formation of CTD, CIA, taking community into confidence, rapid response force, formation of counterterrorism department, and the capacity building of law enforcement agencies. The other policy which came from 2018 to 2023 was based on 6R, which was to reimagine, reconcile, redistribute, reorganize, regional approach, reorient facets of the state and how it interfaces with the citizens. Implementation of national internal security policy in true Latin spits is important. Now, once you form a strategy, once you form a policy, it's so important you follow it. It's on paper. Everybody should be on board. Are we doing that? That's the question. But as a result of the state response, this is what happened. The terrorist acts that we see in 2000, moving from 150 to 336, and we search and see 3,923 incidents around 2015, 16, and 14, but it has gone down because of state response. When terrorism came, most of the countries actually didn't know how to respond. It took them time to understand how to overcome this menace, this new malice of humans and this organized crime, how it is to be handled. A person wants to come, he wants to die, and he wants to take others along with him. So people learn over the years, but now we see that it has gone down. As the suicide attacks incidents, in 2002, we say it just started with 85 in 2010. There was a surge over there. We so far have had 5 suicide attacks this year. Suicide attack, the result of casualties out of suicide attacks. We see again, moving from 2002, it goes up to 1,220 in 2011 and 12, and then we see going down with 86 casualties this year so far. These are some of the laws which the law enforcement agencies and security agencies employ to actually get hold of the culprits, get them on the trial. We also have removal and blocking of unlawful online content. These are some of the military operations which have taken place. And it has brought some result and stability in the regions. From 2017 to 2020, we see almost over 3 lakh intelligence-based operations all over, with 34,000 in Punjab and 1,50,000 in Sindh, So this Operation Radul Fasad, there were intelligence-based operations which was being carried out. There were operation against the terrorist organizations, assets frozen, check on their movements. 365 terrorists killed in the process. The dilemma. Is it possible? Or it will remain future impossible tense? A corruption-free society. MOI did form 14 experts group, yet the recommendation of these groups have not seen the light of the day. FATF is finally satisfied with the progress. We complied with 34-point action plan. Pakistan may be taken out of the grey list after on-site visit inspection by FATF. But remember, we have been in the FATF before also. 2008 and 9, 2012 and 15, 2018 grey list until next evaluation. FATF grey list costing us 38 billion till this date. Each year, Pakistan loses staggering amount. And again, a question, where are the capitals of Pakistan? Is it there? We also have a challenge of cyber terrorism, launch of computer-based attacks, the computer's network on information, cyber espionage, the financial theft, another trans-border crime. Fight against the fallout of international developments. The hybrid war stems strife of divide and hatred, and it's on. The fake news, the diplomatic ostracization, employing political and unconventional methods. We still have the refugees problem. The fresh flux of refugees from across the border is still on. How does a terrorist group end? We have a very interesting RAND study over here. It says that 42% mostly ends because of the political negotiations. 40% joint police and intelligence-based operations, where you go after them and they stop doing what they are doing. Military action, 10%. And terrorist groups succeeded, 8%. They also succeed at times. But this is how most of the terrorist groups have ended. We have got some tangible success. Reduction in terrorism events and casualties, like I showed on the graphs over there. Karachi, which was declared as one of the most dangerous cities, now no more a dangerous city in the world, despite mugging and other things are challenged, but it's not challenging in the concept of terrorism and extremist activities. Such we have having a lot of successful visits of foreign dignitaries. Pakistan ranked top tourist destinations. So we have success. I repeat, overall, we have policy, strategy, and capacity. We only need will, commitment, and resolve at the crucial hour. Do we have that? That's a question. हम कर सकते हैं, हम पॉलिसी भी बनाते हैं, सब कुछ करते हैं. क्या हमारी नियत है करने की? फिर हम सलाहियत पैदा कर सकते हैं उसको करने की? That's a question. The national security policy asserts, जो अभी आई है recent, security of Pakistan rests in the security of citizens, prioritize national cohesion and prosperity of people, guarantee fundamental rights and social justice without discrimination, to promote delivery-based good governance through strengthening of institutions, rule of law, transparency, accountability, and openness. I hope this happens. And if it does, there is going to be a great impact. Economic security at the core, that is a priority now. Of course, judicious transfer of dividends to strengthen defense and human security, equally important. We need sincere, robust approach, sustain our past good efforts, response to tackle upcoming challenges, improve public service delivery. Conduct and response, conduct and performance, conduct and professionalism is going to be the linchpin. This has been my life. And I've seen it on the street. I've seen it, what happens at the highest level. Extremism is a challenge to our existence. It needs to be thought through, reason, logic with compassion. For common Pakistanis, the real issues are inflation, unemployment, and poverty. Soaring fuel prices is going to be coming challenge in the days. Political and governance uncertainties, the biggest enemy of economy. High inflation and fear raises Pakistan risks associated We're investing in country. All the policy forms should be implemented. Otherwise, there's no need to make them. Once you make a policy, make a strategy, with so many inputs, with so much resources involved in it, then it's time to follow it. Build capacity on it. We need to revamp criminal justice system. And I always keep on saying, in the 20 action points of NAP, criminal justice system should have been the first point, which comprises of police, prosecution, courts, and prisons. That should have been #1 priority. But it was the last priority. It was the 20th point on the agenda. Build capacity and capability of the police organization, the first responder. Police is the first responder, not that I belong to this organization. All over the world, police is a first responder. You don't like their performance, improve their performance. You need to build their capacity. You need to hold them accountable. But you cannot expect that the task to be taken over by someone else. You have to build their capacity. Extraneous interference in police working must be stopped. I don't call it political interference. I always call it extraneous interference. Everybody loves interfering in police working. You must provide them resources, technology, and operational autonomy. Even the courts have given decision that police working should have operational autonomy. Do they have the operational autonomy? That's another question. Police-friendly policing, the community policing is so important. Engage community. It's not like empowering the community. It's like giving them back their powers. They be the part to ensure that crime is preempted in their areas. Efforts be made to minimize corruption, ensure optimum utilization of resources. This is again a challenge. Build safe city projects in big cities. That's the only way forward. Big cities can't be managed. Encourage and appreciate high-performing officers or offers and hold non-performers accountable. Police should help in de-radicalization campaign. Justice be provided irrespective of social class. Improve our international standing by judicious policies. Adopt evidence-based policing and take intelligence-based actions. Now we also have another crisis, Russian-Ukraine fallouts. The crisis is likely to cause another rally in the global prices of energy foods, and we will be affected. We are being affected. We are already feeling the shockwave of Russian-Ukraine fallout. For sustainable development, enhancement of peace, social justice, well-being within and across generations, leaving no one behind is a way forward. There should be no doubt that as a stakeholders, or leaders, and people who have come to this level and stage, that our legacy will be determined by the actions we take. हम क्या करते हैं, हमें इस चीज पे याद किया जाएगा. जब अल्लाह ने हमें ओहदा दे दिया, यहाँ तक पहुंचा दिया, दुनिया जहाँ की सैर कर ली, तालीम हासिल कर ली, now it's our responsibility. There will be our legacy. How much did we contribute and how much we are contributing even after leaving those positions. Let's work with the cause to leave a proud heritage for our children. All of us are versed off. This we love when we play to the gallery, because temptations of playing to the gallery dilutes professional credulity. Let's reshape public opinion through good leadership. This is what we need. Leadership. When people talk about police department, I so vigorously and openly say, it's not a constable who is responsible for what's happening in the department. It's the leadership which is responsible. It's me, the IG, the DIG, the SSP. They are actually responsible whether the police is bad or good, not a cop on street. They have to ensure the cop on street has to be professional. Build leadership, talk and enhance professionalism as we are doing it in this session. Remember, organization decays because of poor and weak leadership. The fish rots from the head. So leadership matters the most to guide and lead any organization and its mandated objective. Love the job you do. For all the youngsters over here, whatever job that you pick in your life, whatever you think is best for you, opt for that. And when you do that, start loving it. And for some reason, if you don't like it, stop tipping. Leave it and do something else in your life. If you're football खेल रहे हैं और फुटबॉल खेलने में मजा नहीं आ रहा, छोड़ दे, हॉकी शुरू कर दे. ये ना करें कि फुटबॉल खेलते रहें और शिकायत भी करते रहें. Don't do this. There are a lot of people out there who work in organization and trip, but actually don't want to leave it. Enjoy this life, like I said in the beginning. It's not much. Key to successful leadership today is influence and not authority. People should love their job and love try to perform when they see leaders and their seniors. And choose to be a balanced person. For the youngsters, again, this message. I'm extending this message through courtesy of Ambassador, His Excellency Nadeem, for all the youngsters. Be a balanced person in your life. Indulge in love and sorrow. Socialize, listen to music, pray, play, travel, and read. Do all those things which make you a balanced person. A balanced person is a happy person. Live a life to make a difference. And the hard work puts you where the good luck can find you. Believe in this. All the people that you see who come over here and speak, they worked hard in their life. And when they work hard, they got an opportunity. And you will find the opportunity at that forum. So it's there. If it's not coming now, it's waiting for you to strive and reach there. And remember, the malice of wicked should never be reinforced by the weakness of the virtuous. This is so important. After World War II, when millions died, this is what they came up with. Never allowing the malice of wicked to be reinforced by the weakness of the virtuous. And in those countries is why people are in power, the subjects do not even notice the existence of their rulers. In organizations which is run by leadership, which is good, professional, caring, people would even don't know at times how the systems are working. And remember why nations fail. And remember why organizations goes down. Narrow elites feathering their nest at the expense of society. This is a principal reason why nation or an organization can fail. But remember, you are here for a while. Every mortal will taste death. Only some will taste life. For all of the youngsters over here, you have a big life ahead of you. Taste it. And those people at my age, even we have so much to taste in our life, so much to do. So this short period that we have in this global earth, make best out of it. We'll all will be leaving. People are left before us. But as long as we are, let's make a difference. Let's enjoy life. Let's be a balanced person. Let's contribute. And let's live a life to make a difference. Thank you.
Well, the floor is now open for question and answers. Anybody who wants to ask a question? Ma'am.
Thank you very much, Imam Sab. That was a wonderful presentation. I have two questions. Number one, what is the main impediment behind the various police reforms that have been staged and have not entirely been successful? Having people such as you in office who have worked at multiple dimensions, why haven't we actually been able to come about with a successful security sector governance model, despite having all of these things that you have enlisted? Thank you.
You're good there, ma'am.
Salma Malik.
Salma.
Salma.
Salma. So you want me to take question or should I take I can take one more question maybe? One or two.
Arish. I'm a research analyst here at the Institute of Regional Studies. Sir, as we know that Pakistan has been fighting terrorism for the past 2 decades. And as you said, like police has been in the forefront in this fight. So in what ways has this fight enhanced or improved the professional capacity of the police, this fighting for 20 years?
Yeah, you will allow me to have a sip of water. Thank you, ma'am. The issue of police reforms is very close to my heart. And I believe that if we are working and people are criticizing and if not, we're not producing good results, there should be there should always be an effort to redo what you are doing, improve upon what you are doing, and learn what other states and other models exist, which actually makes you better, and to improve upon those things where you are failing. Since we inherited 1861 of Police Act, and it was more focused on the order side instead of law or serving humanity or looking after the human rights. The purpose of 1861 Act was to ensure order. You need to establish order. So there is no insurgency, there is no deviation. People are not going to stand up against the state. I'm talking about the colonial time. So this is the law that we inherited. You will be very amazed to learn that in 1948, Mr. Jinnah announced the police commissionerate for Karachi. That was the first step he took. By saying this, he wants to make the police organization a professional force, build their capacity, run it on a modern lines, which should be service oriented with democratic aspirations. But it was never implemented. But since then, in last 74, 75 years, we have seen a lot of reforms have come their way. It's not that reforms haven't come. We have forensic labs, we have safe cities in many places, and we see reforms coming up. We had more than 26 commissions, which stood up and tried to bring a lot of reform, took a lot of reform measures. But actually it was 2002 where a major reform took place. And where they say, well, this should be structured in future. This will be their operational working. This is how they're going to investigate. This is how the resources are going to come. And this is how you can have external oversight. And this is how you can have internal oversight. We did have that law, but it was never, it was hardly implemented. And the simple answer to your question would be, we need will. We actually need will. People who are at the helm of the affair should understand that an organization needs to be professional. If you're making a cricket team, you have to ensure it should be the best. It's not that you're going to fill it with people who are just known to you or who have been told to be recruited. But you need best players in your team. You need Babar Azam. And if you're making football team, you need Messi. So are you ensuring that your organizations are getting the best? So the recruitment process and subsequent training is all that, come into question. But the latest which has happened, the Police Order 2002, and then it was amended, it lost its original spirit, but the last has come from the judiciary side, Police Reforms Committee in 2 volumes, where they have cited 7, 8 areas the police needs to work, and they have come up with a plan and suggested some reform measures. They also suggested that there should be a uniformity of law in that way, but it's not implemented, because when you are going to make a change, when you are going to make police professional, it's moving away from that colonial mindset. You see, there is reforms in police. A lot of cops have died in the process. You see them on the street all the time. If you remove cops from the street right now, you'd see a different scenario. Right in Islamabad over here, when I see the lights goes off in any of the any of this, intersection, I see, you can see what happens over there. So you need people out there. But the point is, you need professional people out there. So latest on police reforms is we have 2 volumes of Police Reforms Committee. It was formed by the retired IGs and the serving IGs, and they have come up with recommendation. It has been approved. The only question is its implementation. So do you want to implement or not? So that is a successful model. That is a successful model. थाना कैसा है, थाने के मसाइल क्या हैं, थाने को कैसा होना चाहिए, सब जानते हैं. सवाल यह कि आप करना चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते. कशफुल माजूब में अली बिन उस्मान लिखते हैं, जो तुम जानते हो वो तो करते नहीं, तो फिर तुम जानना क्यों चाहते हो? So we know how things can be done and improved, and we know how other people have done it in other parts of the world. We can do it. The question is, do you have will? If you do it, there's going to be cost. If you do it, there's going to be a certain fallout. You see, I was just coming when Ambassador Nadeem gave me a very good example when he was given a ticket on motorway. Let me confess that he got a ticket on motorway for speeding, and the ticket, the sergeant who was giving him the tickets, after giving him the ticket, said, You didn't tell me who you were. So you were the ambassador, and probably I would not have given you the ticket. We have to come out of that mindset. Law applies for everyone. So are we ready? Are we ready to accept that it's going to be applied to the elites, to the haves, the people who actually call the shots? That's the question. So all this reform says it should be applied to all. Rule of the law, not rule of the ruler. And we say not might is right, but right is might. So that's the focus on reforms. So simple answer, we need will. That's what it is. We need will. Secondly, what ways, you mentioned what ways? It has improved. In fact, after 9/11, when incidents of terrorism took place all over the world, people didn't even know how to respond to it. You see, you have a criminal who would come to your house, steal and run away. You have people who would commit a crime and then try to sneak again, vanish from the scenes. But terrorist is a different sort of criminals. He wants to come and he doesn't want to go, and he wants to take you along with you. So actually, how to handle these suiciders and how to handle this remote car bombers, that became a big challenge. Pakistan responded by CTD, Counter-Terrorism Department, along with the agencies and security agencies. A lot of planning was done. We came up with NACTA and we came up with National Internal Security Policy. The special branch and the other agencies have improved their working. They got a lot of new equipments and technologies, where they can actually carry geofencing and actually get to those people who are committing this. But do remember, solving a case is one thing. You can know who the criminal is, but proving it in the court of law is another thing. You need actually an entire different domain and exercise to prove that he's actually a criminal. यानी पता है कि चोर है, साबित कैसे करेंगे कि चोर? That's a challenge which law enforcement and the other agencies come across. But they have improved. You can see from the graph that it has gone down, and this has cost us. We lost so many good people in the armed forces and in the police service of Pakistan. I lost a lot of my friends. Even I have recited Kalma many times, and I thought it is the last day of my life. So I can call myself, when I portray this picture to brag myself, I can put Ghazi also along with it. A man who has come successfully alive from a battlefield, Ghazi.
Sir, in one of your slides, you mentioned about the community policing. So are there some practical suggestion or practical steps, you being the head of your police organization, have you taken for the community policing? Number one. My question number two, you mentioned that police can kill terrorists, but education can kill terrorism. Are there any practical suggestions or things or any report given by the police department to the education or national curriculum council to add the things in our single national curriculum that can be educated in the education institutions to remove the terrorism?
Dr. Tabassum is a PhD and an educationist, and this is a special area of understanding. Yes, in the context of community policing, a lot of measures have been taken, and even law exists to support them. For example, in 2002, what the ma'am asked, we have safety commissions, which ensure at the national level, at the district level, and at the town level, where you have safety commissions. They also suggested to have citizen police liaison committee, empowering them with certain powers, they are to be selected, and how they will handle when situations come across them. But we have also seen a lot of other community policing measures like neighborhood watch, conciliatory committees, the peace committees, the intelligence committees, and the rescue committees. So a lot of people have been involved, and you pick up people from the community. The challenge is that everybody wants to be part of it. And whichever the sitting government is, they believe it's their baby. Instead that it should be a neutral or an impartial body. They believe that it's a domain we can help them to win next elections or take some advantage out of it. So that's where the gray area lies. So we have a lot of these committees at many places who are successfully working and who are ensuring. We even have women and child protection centers who looks after the women cases and the juvenile cases. That is also working successfully. And for that, we need to build capacity. We need to give them resources. And my latest article that I've written, and which should be published in a day or so, is about how the price hike is going to affect response from the police side. And I believe that community policing is a way forward. When we talk about community policing, it's not that we are empowering people back. The general concept is that you engage public and you empower them. My concept is that you give back their powers. Actually, we have taken their powers. We need to make them responsible. In tribal primitive areas, they were holding responsibility of security in their streets and in their villages and in their towns. So we need to give them back the power that we have taken as a state, and now we are not fully being able to ensure that on the ground. The second, yes, the national internal security policy includes this very important point that to include curriculum, how to reduce extremism, and to start taking measures and suggesting people right from the formative years of students, so they understand that what lies ahead of them. So they have come up with certain curriculum. They have also integrated a lot of madrasas who have been registered, and they have also tried to ensure that this curriculum, that people don't go to a very extreme extent in understanding and what their beliefs are or what their understanding of the world is. They have also come over there. But this extremism or going to this extreme side, it's not just some sort of a rightist movement. Of lately, we have seen people, some from the left also, some very progressive people, like the latest attack of a woman, first women suicidal in Karachi. She was a highly educated lady and she had certain reasons to do what she did. So it's on both sides. It can carry you along. Those push and pull factors can affect any one of us. It can trigger us and it can just carry us away. It's over there. But yes, there is some curriculum at the education level. They have come up with some other plans also, like in motorway police, we came up with road safety education for the schools and kids, how they should actually respond to the emerging traffics, because almost 25-30,000 people die in traffic accidents in Pakistan every year. It's much more than this terrorist and murders which takes place. That's a big concern, that people die because of road accidents. And most of them are pedestrians walking on streets, run over by a car. So that curriculum has also been introduced, and people to be educated so that they save their lives and lives of their loved ones. But more has to be done. More has to be done. And the truth is, only education, literacy, and development, and creating an environment and creating an ambience and effective response mechanism is actually going to overcome organized crime and terrorism.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Kaleem. Sorry, I missed the earlier part of your lecture. I'm Shabana Fiaz from Terrorism University. I wanted to ask, are you satisfied with the ATA anti-terror laws that have been amended many, many times in Pakistan? And you being a practitioner, how would you feel? Because there are voids in it, not in the writings, but in the implementation. Because the re-registration of the new names of the disband organization, that is a very tricky process. It is not only in Pakistan, it is across the region. So how would you like to reflect on that, number one? And number two, how do you foresee the prospects of regional cooperation regarding counter-terrorism, counter-extremism, online and also through the SARC platform? Thank you so much.
All the laws which have been made primarily stems from the customs and traditions and values which exist in society. And mankind adopted those things, those rules and those practices which actually paid them dividends. Something happened, they applied certain they did certain discussion, and the issue was resolved. And the way it was resolved became law over the times. The question is of its acceptability. As far as ATA is concerned, ATA 1997 is a valid law. It's quite useful. It has brought a lot of success for the law enforcement agency. The point is, again, building capacity of the law enforcement agency, number one, and to ensure and implement the other aspects involved in the ATA laws, which includes like the senior officers needs to go in the courts and present himself as a witness. One of the very important ingredients of ATA is that our senior officers doing that. In many places, even their statement of confession is admissible. And let me say, under 1861, even the IG is a magistrate. Even he can, if he takes a statement of someone, that is admissible and that can be put up in the court. But it has never happened in the entire history of law enforcement. So the law is good. The challenges of its capacity and how people understand it. So when we make law, it's not how it's important that how the other components of criminal justice system understands it, how the police understands, how the prosecution takes it, how the court takes it. For example, one simple thing is that in earlier times and even now, when you lodge an FIR and you nominate someone, it's very difficult to get him exonerated at certain stages, even if he's not a criminal. People say, well, FIR mein to naam tha iska, is aapne kaise naam nikal diya iska? So the simple FIR is कि मेरे घर रात 4 बंदे आए और मेरी चीजें लेके चले गए, पुलिस को मैं रिपोर्ट करता हूं कि take an action against them. That's an FIR. But no, we will build up a story. 4 persons came, and I suspect they belong to the neighboring neighbor, and I believe that Achu and his companies are very active in that area, and I think that they have committed this crime. Now he has nominated people. Now police starts going Achu and get hold of Achu company. He might have done any other crimes. Did he do this one? That's a question. How did the complainant know he has done it? So the FIR and subsequent Zimnis and case diaries are very important in that way. So ATA, the law exists. We need to build capacity. We need to invest in it. We need to bring a harmony in the relationship of the criminal justice components. Most of the cases in ATAs are convicted. Most of the cases, almost 95%. In the next forum, most of them are acquitted. And this is a standard practice in all over the courts over here. You see, the first court is actually punishing, convicting. The second court is start looking at the other angles, which may be right. And at the Supreme Court level, it's altogether a different understanding of how the man got convicted, in that way. Your other question, judicial? Okay. I don't know. I don't think we have a SAR conference for quite some time now. Did we? But there is a working body which goes on, and they share information, and through even the Interpol is involved in it in many of those cases. But there is a sharing mechanism where they share informations. But there's a lot of politics involved in it, So I can't say much on that.
Assalamualaikum, sir. My name is Fazan and I am a research associate at IPRI. First of all, thank you so much for such an insightful talk on the topic. So you have mentioned some of the terrorist groups which are still active in Pakistan, and I am assuming specifically in the bordering region, specifically erstwhile FATA. So what do you think that the merger did it have an impact on the situation of terrorism in the erstwhile FATA? And now, since all the districts have been merged and they have been mainstreamed, do you think that the situation has improved, or do you think that the situation has not been as improved as it was, thought to be? Thank you so much, sir.
I would say that. Khokar sahab.
आपको जल्दी है?
नहीं.
I just want to know your personal opinion on certain aspects. Police Order 2002 and its recommendations were sabotaged by the senior police officers. Do you agree with that notion? Because you don't want oversight and checks and boards on the police itself. Number two, from your slides, I got the impression that the state response was heavenly and successful, which is not the case on the ground. Society is more fragmented with less faith in the law enforcement agencies. Your view on that? Number three, D.I. Khan jail case is in case in point. Did the state institute destroyed the capacity of the police to act. What really happened?
What was the last question?
DI Khan, 2013, jailbreak where 176 Al-Qaeda and Taliban uh, people were freed. It's a technical.
You don't want me to be back over here, isn't it? Well, regarding FATA merger, the general theory is you need to have uniform laws all over the country. You have to understand that what is applicable in one part should be applicable in the other part also. There were a lot of issues and it has been merged and it's part of KP. It has pros and cons. Of course, it has pros and cons. And anything new you do, it has inherent resistance to change. But to be a progressive and modern society, you need to see the world as it is and the world as it should be. So as far, if you ask me, FATA merger is good. But the next question would be, are you merging it in with sincerity? Are you merging it with proper resources? Are you actually fair when you are merging it? So if all these elements are present, you won't have any problems. But if there are shortcuts in it and there is expediency in it and there's ad hoc gains in it, questions are going to be asked. So you need to be transparent. You see, the elements of good governance are, you need to be transparent. You need to have equity and inclusiveness. In FATA merger, how much equity and equity and inclusiveness still exists? That's another question. Have enough money been given over there, which was promised? Have those people who were supposed to work in law enforcement agencies all merged into police now? Is their capacity built? Yes, even the normal policing has challenges. So here you have a new force, there will be more challenges. So are we overcoming all those? So we need to see all those ingredients and all these traits to understand that how successful it could be. Yes, it should be merged. In fact, one law all over the country. You would be surprised that there is a tribal area even in Punjab. There's a place where they in this Rajanpur and these areas where again it's treated something like the tribal area, and they do. So why do this? The question is, just in the interest of someone wants it to happen? No, it's a country for everybody, law for everybody. If there's a law for everybody. And yes, the groups that you mentioned, they don't have proper offices, like a board and saying this is a head of TTP or whichever organization. They exist in silos and they operate very secretly. They don't have any, and the agencies do go after them and they don't work so openly and it's not possible for them. There have been a lot of success in that way, that they are, and many of them are dormant now. Many of them have different ideology that they want to enforce. Sometimes they go ahead with it when they find an opportunity, but many of the time they are very silent and they remain dormant in that way. Regarding Dr. Ambassador Jamal question, 2002 police order, why it was not enforced? Well, if we cite down the reasons why it was not enforced, first it was built with a lot of equity and inclusiveness. I was also involved in it, and it was a document. It was an evolving document. It could have some problems in it, and you can always evolve a document. But it was something very different from 1861. It gave a lot of professional. It had a lot of professional acumen to actually resolve things, But the moment it was enforced, we had an elections, and immediately a lot of amendments took place, as of which it lost its original spirit. That's what first of it. For example, safety commissions were never formed, and the conciliatory committees were never formed. Public complaints authorities were never formed, but many good things happened. For example, a lot of jobs were created, new ranks came up. A lot of people got promoted. I got promoted. That was a silver lining of the reforms. And a lot of resources came up. Forensics came up. Some safe cities came up. And structure was improved. They moved from the traditional policing to specialized policing, decentralizing many things. They did move to that way. But there were a lot of part in it, which was to curb actually the colonial mindset. One of them was appointment of the inspector generals and appointment of officers for certain place, the tenure, which was never followed. Even despite that, even after 2002, court has made a lot of orders that when you post an IG, you're supposed to give him a tenure. Choose whichever IG that you want, have a criteria. Once you do that, He has to be there for a certain period. And you should have a very plausible reason to remove him. You just cannot remove him by a whim, by instinct that, oh, you are no more IG tomorrow. This is what has happened. You've seen in Punjab, 7 IGs. They started with me. I was the first one. I was an icebreaker, you can say, or whatever. I was the first IG to be removed. And then we have 7 other IGs to come. So it was good that I got removed and I went somewhere else. And the new place I went, I also had challenges over there. Yes, when you see the reasons why it is not implemented, another reason would be that the police officers, many of them didn't have the understanding of what this law was. And many of them believed that, should it be enforced in exactly the same way, because many of them would become accountable. That was another factor. And many of them would like to live with status quo, they say. When I joined academy, and we would boast, like the young interns that I see over here, we would boast that we should have this training finish as early as possible. We want to go back to the field. And once we go to the field, we'll make a big difference. हमें जाने तो दो एक दफा, हम देखें क्या करते हैं. And my commandant would say, the best among you will be maintaining status quo, and rest will just decline. आप भी जाके एक बड़ी मशीन का एक छोटा पुर्जा बन जाओगे, और बाकी तो वो भी नहीं बनेंगे. The best among you will be maintaining status quo. So this was one of the factors, and that police officers were reluctant, were shy, didn't understand the complicity. Yes, they were very happy they got promoted because of that. They were very happy they got more money for the investigations. They were very happy at certain places. But in many other places, like like how a person is to be posted and how a person is to be assigned duties, and with the other sections over there, they weren't happy over there. I don't know much about the jail breakups. All the bad incidents should have had an after action review, like we do in United Nations, and we should learn lessons for what has happened. We should not brush things under carpets. I always believe that what happens needs to be known, and lessons need to be learned, and so that it doesn't happen again. But if the policy is कि मट्टी पाओ, जाने दो, छोड़ें, and then why? Because you know people who are your friends, or you know people who are too powerful that you won't be able to hold them accountable. You don't want to investigate. You don't want to investigate, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And it's now happening somewhere where you see you are less affected. It's going to come to your home, So you need to have an after action review, lessons learned from everything that happened. In fact, I keep on saying to myself also that even when we end our day, at the end of our day, we should be in front of a mirror, talking to ourselves. Kaleem Imam, what you did today? What was the best thing you did today? What was something you did was not satisfying? You should avoid doing it tomorrow. And what would be one good thing you would do tomorrow as the day breaks? So you talk to yourself. So introspection is very important as you talk to yourself. So organization should carry a retreat. You should go through their workings. How do they work? What are their challenges? What went wrong? And how they can improve upon their things. If you're not doing that, again, we're not moving towards reforms. Again, we are just brushing things under carpet. Nothing should be brushed under the carpets. Say, if this is what has happened, this is a lesson learned. We don't want to hold someone accountable. Okay, well, he should be held accountable, but at least learn the lessons learned, so you don't carry out that practice again.
I apologize to anybody who was unable to ask a question because of shortage of time. But now I would like to invite Ambassador Nadeem Riaz, President, Institute of Regional Studies, for a vote of thanks and his remarks.
Thank you, Arash. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It was really a pleasure listening to Dr. Kaleem Imam. It's very rare that you hear a police officer talk about terrorism and at the same time talk about psychology, talk about how people think, talk about what makes a criminal. Because criminals are people just like us, but they are mitigating circumstances, they are factors which change them from normal individuals like us to a world of crime, a world where they destroy others, they destroy themselves, they destroy their families, they destroy the social strata of society. Sir, you rightly spoke about that terrorism is a menace. It's a menace not only for us, it's a menace for the entire world. It's something which we all have to join hands to fight, despite our political differences. Because if left unchecked, it's going to affect our future generations. You spoke about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Yes, it is going to affect the world. It is affecting the world. There is rising inflation. And what happens when you don't have enough money to eat? You turn to a life of crime. So you spoke about the rule of law. You spoke about governance. You spoke about leadership. But you also spoke about humanity. Humanity is the key. Our system and system elsewhere in the world, which are called correctional facilities. Am I right, sir? The jails, have they ever corrected someone? When you leave a jail, you become a bigger criminal. So it's all about humanity. It's about injustice. It's all about not getting justice, which you enumerated was one of the factors which force people to a life of crime. We all have rules, we all have regulations. People have better regulations probably in the West, but are they a crime-free society? Do the mafias still exist? Yes, they do. It's the implementation. It's the judiciary. We need those judicial reforms, not only in Pakistan, but we need reforms to counter crimes of violence, the gun culture, narcotics. They destroy lives and they destroy societies. So you spoke about countering terrorism by intelligence-based operations. You spoke about the relevance of police. The percentage of terrorist activities which is controlled by the police, and then the ones which are taken out by the army. So, but you touched upon a very essential subject: education, community work, community policing. So in the final analysis, I think it is education. It is the rule of law. It is better governance, which will make our society a better place to live in. So on behalf of the Institute, I would like to thank you again for a very inspirational talk. It was really a pleasure welcoming you for the first time over here, and we hope you will continue to grace this institute with your presence. Thank you very much.